Today's episode is brought to you by Vivo Life. Vivo Life make my favourite health supplements, and I love them because they're an environmentally conscious company. Obviously, you want to do the right thing for your own body, but you probably want to do the right thing for the planet. For a lot of plant-based diet followers, that's a big part of why they made that choice. Not only are Vivo Life certified carbon neutral, they also plant a tree for each order. You should see their car park, and their health supplements taste and make me feel amazing, and it takes a lot to do that. If you're looking to fill the gaps in your vegan diet, then look no further than Vivo Life's natural, healthy, sustainable supplements. Hello there, and welcome to the Vegan Life podcast, continuing our world tour. And this week, well, we're in France, arguably the most refined kind of cuisine in the world, although I'm going to do my best to lower the tone. Let's meet today's chefs. Anton Petrov is returning to the podcast. He runs classes, demos, private dinners, and foraging expeditions. I still want to do that so badly. He's developed masterclasses at Demuth. I knew that. Sure. I always research my notes very carefully. At the Harborne Food School and Made in Hackney. And Alexis Gauthier is the owner of French fine dining restaurant Gauthier Soho and was awarded a Michelin star in 2011. He became vegan in 2016 and changed Gauthier Soho to a completely vegan menu in 2021. He has appeared on MasterChef multiple times as a judge. I've got so many questions I want to ask you about that. I've just started binge watching MasterChef. And it's such a good show. I mean, it's not like, oh, hey guys, there's this hot new show you should see. I mean, it's been running for 4,000 years, but Greg Wallace does a certain look. When someone does a joke, he kind of goes, and just holds his mouth open like, for ages. And just like holds his mouth open at you. Like a basking shark.
He's a very, very clever man and very knowledgeable. So he plays a lot with people around him, but at the end, he's actually the cleverest in the room.
Oh, really? Really?
Yeah, absolutely. He's just playing the part they want him to play. But if you remove the cameras, he's super knowledgeable, and he's
amazing. Next, you're going to be telling me that the minute the camera stops, he's like, "Was that okay? Do you need another take?" Right, you are. Is he super posh? He's super posh. I knew.
No, he's not super posh. He's not. No. But he's a real character.
Well, anyway, you appeared on the Vegan Week episode of MasterChef, which I never saw, and you taught contestants how to make vegetables the center of the dish.
But no. They showed me what they were, how inspired they were by vegetables, and how much they could create some, vegan dishes that up there with the best dishes that MasterChef contestants have created. So it was quite up and down, I would say.
Sure. I can't imagine having a Michelin star and that level of humility, but you're wonderful. We've got lots of questions to get through. I'm very, very excited. And the first one, I feel like this is kind of like the holy grail, the vegan holy grail question. So I'm going to jump in with it. Lily May has emailed. It's podcast@veganlifemag.com if you've got a question. Can a vegan souffle be achieved? Well, we've had a go at this before, and the general consensus is usually no. Alexis, is it possible?
In the life of a real French souffle, which you beat something up and you add flavor to it, and then you put it in the oven, and then the magic happens in the oven. I will say, no, it's not possible.
Well, you know what? It's barely possible for the omnivores. I mean, most souffles fail, right?
Absolutely. It's already super mega hard with the original recipe. I mean, you think about it. Who invented this recipe? Which pervert on this planet was mad enough to say, well, look, we are going to create a pudding that takes about 10 to 15 minutes to cook in a restaurant, and there is one chances out of two that the final product is going to be a disaster.
Yeah.
This is the ultimate challenge
Yeah.
for a non-vegan kitchen. So I think when you are vegan and you are trying to make life, you are going to create some delicious puddings. Why on earth will you try to replicate the most tedious and torturing pudding ever created? I've got no idea. But you can do something that's reminiscent to a souffle, i.e., something kind of fluffy, that's warm, with bubble inside.
Yeah, that's Greg Wallace, isn't it? Fluffy, warm, bubble inside.
It's kind of possible with a lot of starch, a lot of chickpea water, which has been obviously mixed and added all sorts of thing that keeps things together when it's being cooked. But it's never going to raise like a souffle because there isn't any magical. I mean, I don't know. Maybe in 10 years' time we'll be able to do it. But I will say to vegan who can't live without a souffle, have a life, because there is so many other delicious puddings you can do. But forget about the souffle. That's just one of the things that non-vegan have created to make life complicated for pastry chef to justify their very high salaries in a restaurant.
That is the best answer. Just get a life.
It is. It's truly the best answer. Bravo, Alexis.
Anton, have you attempted a vegan souffle?
Yeah, and I failed miserably on multiple occasions. Not only did I attempt to do the souffle, I also attempted to making a double baked savory souffle, and that was a massive disaster. But it kind of went into this kind of a flan like consistency and texture. So there was the lightness to it, but there was definitely no air, no magic, no cloud-like consistency and texture. I haven't reached a stage of achieving a magic, and even doing the research. I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm just incompetent and I should research more. But doing the research and seeing the pictures of blog posts, you can clearly see that it's just there's that very short moment where that souffle is being taken out, where it doesn't even seem like it's even cooked, just to take that shot where that half a centimeter of the souffle is rising above the ramekin edge. Even professional chefs are failing miserably at that. But if you do, please hit me up. I would like to hear your stories of success. For sure.
Me too.
Definitely. I would say, just looking at alternatives, you know what it made me think of was Queen of Puddings. I don't know if either of you have had that. It's a fantastic pudding that I think it's kind of like a lemony, breadcrumby, fairly dense puddingy base with raspberry jam on top and then meringue on top of that. And that might give you a sort of a slightly similar hit. But,
I hear you. That makes sense.
That's very British.
It's very British. Yeah, it's not. It's our version of a souffle. It's heavy and it's dense and it's wet. Yeah.
Crunchiness and yes, that's complicated. But definitely you can do that as vegan probably.
Okay, Michelle has asked, and I love this question. Thank you for asking this question. I love French soups such as bouillabaisse and the fish soup with the mustard and cheese croutons. Is there any way to recreate a vegan French fish soup? I do feel like the funky fish flavors are the hardest things to recreate. Anton?
No.
Can I start with that?
Yes, you start.
Thank you. Yes, so it's actually, I'm not saying I'm an expert, especially being next to Alexis. So that's why I want to have a first word, and then he can just wow.
Oh, don't worry.
Yeah. In my opinion, the key element here is a stock. So basically, the concept is that the stock you're making, you need to use several very, very, very key ingredients, and that is onion, garlic, parsley, bay leaf, and black pepper. On top of that, it's great to add some celery and fennel. All these ingredients, they generally have a very Mediterranean profile, and when you bring those all together and you steeping that stock, like the room is filled with the aromatics of the Mediterranean fish stock, and then in a separate saucepan, what I would do is just simply sweat onions and garlic, and then add a little bit of either tomato paste or just tomato juice, or freshly cooked fresh tomatoes, just lightly chopped, and yet again bay leaf and black pepper. I would cook that very, very gently. Stock would have to be infused for at least hour, 2 hours. If you can do it 24 hours ahead, that's just better for you, in my opinion. Then you add the stock, not the vegetables, just the stock, to the tomato mixture, and I would add some really good potatoes, starchy potatoes. I find, like, in 12 years of living in UK, I must admit, I haven't found really delicious potatoes. Like, I'm coming from Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
In Latvia, like, potatoes is just a part of our culture. Just cooking potatoes with a little bit of salt is already a delicious experience on its own. I haven't experienced that in UK. I apologize.
No.
I haven't done a good work potentially.
I apologize.
I'm not blaming.
I apologize for having failed you on behalf of Britain. I apologize.
Yeah, it was very surprising, to be honest with you. Like, it was very surprising. The only place I was able to sort it was actually Polish shops, where you just buy Polish potatoes, and they were the good ones. At the end of the summer, that's the time to go and buy amazing Polish potatoes. The potatoes we're looking for are easy to cook and easy to fall apart. I wouldn't add anything else. Just allow this to cook for a good hour, and then it's ready to eat. And the last finishing touches, freshly chopped dill, freshly chopped parsley, and some capers. And to make it whole, you obviously have to serve it with croutons. And in my opinion, the another key element to bringing all the flavors that would then give you that wholesome fishy taste and flavor profile is the serving it with rouille, which is a kind of a garlicky, bready dip. Alexis can correct my pronunciation. I don't mean to offend anyone. I'm only learning my French, and so yes, the rouille is just is basically white mushed bread. You dress it with some saffron and a little bit of vinegar, and then you. What I would do is I wouldn't use fresh garlic. I would roast the garlic, and then I would beat it and add olive oil and emulsify it. Add a little bit lemon juice, and again, that served on a crouton with that fish soup, I think it's the closest in, again, from myself, it's the closest thing you can do to achieve the clean taste of delicious fish soup paired with those delicious garlicky croutons.
Yeah, I mean, the great thing about that fish soup is it's all about the fixings, all the stuff that comes with it, I think. Alexis, have you got a mock fish soup?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, on my current menu, we have a dish called Liblet de la mer, which means the Swiss chard of the sea, and this is our own interpretation of a classic bouillabaisse, where we have substituted the fish with the white of the Swiss chard. But it's extremely different, the process that we have from what John just said. So we do a we use a very different process, because I do believe that the reason in order for us to have the flavor of the sea, we use a lot of seaweeds, because obviously the fish eat the seaweed, and this is where they get their delicious flavor. So the seaweed is an integral part of this preparation, and we also use lentils, potatoes, fennel. We use a lot of pastis or ricard as an alcohol, because
Could you repeat that? Pastis or ricard? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like a Pernod, or
Yes, understood.
Based alcohol. So we will do a stock which starts in the same way as you did. So there will be onion, carrot, blah blah blah, laurel, bay leaves. But immediately we infuse the fennels in it. We burn it with this Pernod or pastis, and we add the seaweed, and then we
which seaweed, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, we use yeah, no, that's all right. We use sea lettuce. Mostly we use pulse if they are not too salty, and then we let that infuse. And if it's not seaweed-ish or sea-ish enough at the end, we add some Japanese sushi sheet. You know, the
nori.
Okay.
Yeah, the nori leaves that we will add it to it, just to control the seaness of the dish. Anyway, so that really replaced the fish bones you will have had in a normal fish based. And then we take our white Swiss chard, and we cut them in the shape of a fillet of sole or something like that. And then we at very low temperature, we braise the Swiss chard within the stock. And then Swiss chard, because they are very filandrous, they tend to absorb the flavor of the broth immensely, like sponge, while retaining their filandroness. So when they are really baked, they've got the same texture as a fish which has just been cooked in a fish broth. As a matter of fact, a bouillabaisse broth. So we remove that. So once they are cooked, we remove them, and then we finish off the bouillabaisse with obviously a lot of saffron, a lot of garlic, and then we serve our rouille. There is no mustard, I know, on the but we mix. So what we do is we boil the garlic cloves into the broth, the fish broth, and when they are brought, we put them in a pot, and we mash them with olive oil and saffron, and then we put that on the top of crouton. So you'll have the sensation in this dish of the fish, obviously, which is the white of the Swiss chard in the middle of the plate. Usually it's sitting on a beautiful slice of potatoes. And again, there are some potatoes in UK actually who can be cooked. They are sweet, they are fluffy, and they do not disintegrate. You know, they don't become. They hold a little bit of firmness. So we put the fish over it, and then we put the broth over it, and this is really like a bouillabaisse. And this is, we call it Liblet de la mer.
Lovely.
And it's delicious actually. On our you can see the pictures on our one of our feed. I don't know if it's Facebook or Instagram, but we made a little film of this dish. And actually, at the end, we grate some old sourdough bread over it, just to give a bit more an extra texture. So you've got a little bit of this fluffy crunchiness on the top of this.
I'm salivating.
That's really
white chard who
I'm
really
struggling.
This white, and we give the customer the knife and the knives, the fish knives and the fork knives, and the flavor of the sea are there.
So
I
smart.
swear, the flavor of the sea are there, and they are mixed with the garlic and the saffron. And then you go into this Swiss chard and you think, oh my gosh, is that a tender fillet of sole which I haven't had for years, or what is that? And so this is just the Swiss chard, which has been buffed into this sea-like flavored with Pernod, with saffron. It's really delicious. And this is this is one of our core dish during this summer here at Gauthier. So
sounds amazing. And for those of you kind of slumming it in more of a sort of a corner bistro way, I mean, this is me being trashy now, but Violife do a Gruyere. Because, you know, sometimes those fish soups, they come with cheese as well. As
but that's not the bouillabaisse.
That's not bouillabaisse. That's
the bouillabaisse is very
I'm talking
strict.
about your trashy soupe de poisson, like you get.
Oh, that's soupe de poisson, yeah. You put bread and then you put cheese over it, and that's against the law.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And yet,
that's
it's
a very
flagrantly being
offense.
done on every French high street. I'm just saying. That's my job, is to go trash.
Maybe you're confusing it with an onion soup.
No. But I think you're right. You're right, because I have seen in Paris fish soup being served with the roux on the side, and the Gruyere râpé, the grated Gruyere next to it. This is. I mean, this is against the law. Seriously.
I know. Fish
is against the law.
And
fish and cheese. It's the French equivalent of the filet au fish from McDonald's. Shocking. Happy to go trashy for you.
Is there cheese in filet au fish at McDonald's?
There's cheese in that. Yeah.
I don't believe that.
Yeah, of course.
Oh my gosh, so disgusting.
I would like to just add, because actually I had it in my notes, just a quick remark back to the bouillabaisse and the flavor formation, that for anyone who would like to try it, the seaweed that you would also want to look in the shop to create that fishy flavor profile is kombu. Kombu is an Atlantic kelp that you want to soak in the water. That gives that very base-like sea flavor profile. But actually, another seaweed that is called hijiki, Hijiki, it has an enormously potent, almost like a smoked mackerel taste. It's very, very potent. It's huge. There are like tiny little bits, but it's a few little pieces can give a very strong flavor profile. That's actually very, very fascinating little piece of a seaweed, which again you can play with. Just be careful, because it can be quite overpowering. But that's a useful thing.
Yeah. Let's be honest. The easiest way to have a perfect bouillabaisse, if you are vegan, is to come to my restaurant.
Yeah, let's be honest.
Absolutely.
We'll all go around Alexis' place. Yeah.
How many covers you have? I hope we have more listeners to the podcast.
But we've got many days in the year to have that. No problem.
I'm on my way. Kind of following on from that.
We are.
Yeah. Following on from that, Sarah's emailed to say, I love making sauces, gravies and stocks at home, which we were just touching on. However, the thing I haven't ever been able to get quite right is the lovely shine on the sauce. How can I get that sheen in my red wine jus? Something I've noticed in MasterChef, they talk about, saucing and the importance of making a good sauce and getting that gloss on it. Another thing I've noticed in MasterChef is almost every single dish that gets served, they go, oh, love that butter running through whatever the dish is. It's like, well, sure, if you drown everything in butter, it's going to taste incredible. Yeah, it's such an easy win. Is it butter? Can it be done, Alexis?
Yeah, absolutely. It can be done. And the easiest way to be done is it's to finish off, or to blist, or to whisk very quickly any jus with a spoon of olive oil. Not too bitter one, but that's going to give this finishing off that doesn't that shyness. If you bring the shyness into the sauce by adding a little bit of the best is olive oil, obviously, into your sauce. That's easy. It's just it does the work of the butter, obviously without the torture.
And so it's kind of the whisking makes it emulsify into the sauce.
Yeah, that emulsify, and anything can be. But the key with olive oil is you must add it without boiling it, because the minute you boil it, it's going to split. Okay. So it's just toward the end, just before serving it, a spoon of olive oil, a good whisk, and then you serve it, and it's all shiny all together.
Nice.
if you boil it, that's it. The olive oil comes out.
I'm imagining Sarah running
Where the butter stays in thanks to the cream.
Yeah.
That's a key.
Yeah, it's fresh new ingredient idea. Butter, guys, try it. It's incredible. Anton, do you agree with that?
I had two answers. One is obviously emulsion, a process where fat is bind to a liquid and some lecithins or proteins in that liquid. And another one is when we talk about gravies and demi-glace, we're looking at so-called Maillard reaction, where by kind of almost like searing and burning the starchy vegetables, we activating the protein and sugars in them. And that reaction brings two great things. Number one, it brings out very deep, earthy deliciousness. That's why we love the gravies. That's why we love the demi-glace so much, for that depth of a flavor, especially in plant-based cuisine. And another thing, it releases those sugars, just a kind of searing onions, and potentially sometimes it can be even cauliflower, but my favorite combination is onion and celeriac with a bit of a star anise as a base. I would just roughly chop them up, pour a good amount of oil in a large pot, and I would sear those until pretty much most of the starches are kind of almost like catching on the bottom. But that's where all this Maillard reaction magic is happening. And then I would pour vegetable stock to extract all those burnt starches.
A deglazing thing.
Exactly, precisely. Yeah. And then it's entirely up to you how earthy and what other flavors you want to pair, but the classic one would be adding a little bit of yeast extract, for example, Marmite, soy sauce. Great addition is tomato paste. All of these elements adding the extra layer of umami. You're adding these ingredients, you're cooking it for a good hour, and then it's important to strain it. You don't want to squeeze the juices out, because when you squeeze the starches, and that makes your liquid murky. If you allow it just to drip, it's just the juices that are going through, whether you're using a mesh bag or whether you're using a fine chinois. You just need to allow this liquid to fall, to kind of sieve through on their own without too much effort. And then you're reducing it. And by the time you reduced it, the amount of sugars and the starches in that liquid will eventually turn into this kind of a syrupy consistency when you're more than welcome to add some fat. But in my opinion, with demi-glace and gravy, it's all already there. It's just a matter of reducing it and tasting it and adjusting the flavor.
Sarah, lots for you to play with there. Axel says, how can I make foie gras? Also, how do you create the fat on the top? Oh, Axel wants to go all in on this one. I've tried a commercially produced foie gras. It was pretty good. Alexis, have you had a go at one?
Yes, I did. I made some foie gras, and I used a very simple recipe of mushrooms, so button mushrooms, onion shallots, walnuts, and a lot of cognac flambé.
Oh yeah.
And when you and lentils based, obviously.
Okay.
And when you mix all of that, you get this delicious brownish paste, and then you add a spoon of beetroot puree, and then you mix it again, and you've got this now. This it's more like a pâté rather than the foie gras itself, but you do get this the richness come from the walnut. The texture come from the mixture of the mushroom and the lentils, and then the Frenchness come from the flambe of the cognac, with the onions, and and it's bluffing, because when you put in a French jar, the one with the orange elastic, and you melt a little bit of the fat that you can put any kind of fat, plant-based fat. It looks like it looks really like I don't know, chicken liver pate, even though we call it foie gras. And on a toasted sourdough with a glass of slightly chilled red wine. Oh my gosh, this is like I mean, you don't need to abuse animals to enjoy this. I can tell you.
And we all know what job livers do. I don't know why anyone would want to eat one of those. Anton, have you had a go at foie gras?
Yeah, my recipe is much simpler. I rely heavily on nuts. I just use 70% of cashew nuts and 30% of hazelnut, obviously without the skin. I toast them to a very kind of distinct golden color, and in a frying pan, I just sear white onions with a tiny bit of thyme and rosemary and a bit of cognac, all white wine, and then I simply blend these two in a high-speed blender until really creamy, smooth texture, and obviously adding dashes of water and salt. But you want this kind of a little bit the sweetness to prevail over the savoriness in that pate. And I do agree, it's a pate. It's not really a foie gras, obviously. And because you're not soaking the nuts, basically what happens when you transfer the pate into the jar and you leave it overnight to set, because you're blending the nuts, they're not fully absorbing the liquid. It's kind of, at first the pate will be quite liquidy, or not runny, but you want it to be a kind of pate-esque. But in order for it to blend, it obviously has to be able to run, not be too thick. And so when you're transferring it into a jar and allowing it to set, the particles, the protein particles, and generally the starch in the nuts absorbs the outside moisture and swallows it, so it becomes much more thicker. So you don't even need any stabilizer to make it more solid and more firm. And in order to give that fat layer, is actually very simple. You can either use odorless coconut oil, which will give you a very great solid fat texture, or you can even use a very high quality olive oil, because the superior quality virgin olive oil, when below 5 degrees Celsius, tends to solidify. And so if you put that in the fridge and then you take the jar out of the fridge, that skin of fat will be solid. What I would do before that is that I would steep that oil. I would steep sage, thyme, and rosemary in that oil to give it more aromatics, to give it more aromatic that goes with the combination of the kind of foie gras. And that would work really, really well to create that kind of very deep, earthy flavor complexity. Yes, that's my answer.
Very nice. Two different approaches there. Love a good layer of fat on top of my livers. Oh, what the hell. It's time now for us to ask the question we ask in every edition of this podcast, namely... What do you do? What do you do with tofu? Yes, what do you do with tofu? And this is a totally free pass. This doesn't have to be necessarily about French cuisine. This can just be, what would you do if I gave you a packet of tofu? Now, Anton, you've answered this question several times, so I'm going to give you a free pass. Alexis, what do you do with tofu?
What do I do with tofu? I try not to have too often. That's what I do.
Oh, really? Okay.
I try not to. I mean, I like tofu, but I think it's always sad to couple veganism and tofu fan, because I think there is so much more than tofu in the vegan world, and tofu is really the emblem of veganism, of the old veganism, sandal wearing.
Oh my God, I'm old fashioned. Oh no.
Quinoa eating and tofu trophy holders.
So that you don't like tempeh, Jake.
I suppose you'd rather have tempeh.
Yeah, well, exactly. It goes into the same kind of. Sure. It's in the same cupboard as far as I'm concerned. But hey, wow. Tofu. Obviously, I like soft tofu. I've got two tofu that I like. I love the smoked tofu. You know, like the very highly the one you buy sous vide, and it's like having a sausage, you know, when you are a meat eater, you know, smoke tofu, you slice it and you eat it almost raw.
Yeah.
So that's my
packet in the car park.
Yeah, just out of the packet, you open it and you put it back in the fridge in the packet. But I also like the soft, very soft tofu, which I usually break with a fork, and I had a lemon, and I had sugar, and I eat it just like that.
Lemon and sugar.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah. That's and lemon, and sometimes grated lime over it, even better. But like castor sugar, fork mashed fresh tofu, and lemon juice or grated lime, perfect.
See, there's always something new with this question.
I don't like to. I'm always worried that I'm gonna turn people away from embracing veganism the minute I mention tofu. That's my problem. I do worry, because that's what I do for a living. I try to convince people to embrace a vegan life.
Yes.
And for them not to turn around and say, but I'm not very keen. I'm not very keen in tofu. And I say, come on, vegan is not just tofu. There is so much more to it. So, but I've answered the question.
Yes, and I hear you. I hear you on the tofu thing, and obviously, all vegans are trying to recruit. That's all we do. Now, we all know that a healthy diet is the most important thing. That doesn't stop some of us from eating donuts for at least 2 meals a day. But you know what? There are some nutrients that you really have to look after when you're following a plant-based diet. And that's why I take Vivo Life's vegan vitamin B12, omega-3 and D3 daily. Because that's the set. I mean, you got that covered, you're probably going to be fine. Omega-3, of course, especially important, and Vivo Life sources theirs from the eyes of fish. I'm kidding. They source it from algae, which means it's beneficial for your body, it's beneficial for the oceans, and of course for the fish who can, swim around not bumping into things. It's just awful, isn't it? Why would you come on. Let's get some nice plant-based omega-3. The best thing of all, though, is that I know that all of Vivo Life's products are made with natural ingredients that I can trust. So if you're interested in trying their plant-based supplements, well, we got a code for you. If you use the code VEGANLIFE, you'll get 10% off your first purchase on the vivolife.co.uk website. Come on, you need to look after this stuff, guys. Let's get back to the cooking. Lee says, most wine is paired with beef, chicken or fish. Can you pair good wine with sophisticated vegan food? I remember sort of snorting in a derisory way when I just started being vegan. Somewhere in Canada, someone was doing an evening where they were pairing wines with vegan cheeses, and I was like, oh, come on. But now I kind of see the wisdom of that. Anton, do you agree?
100%. Of course, you can pair wine with any cuisine, and especially the vegan cuisine that we are experiencing right now, with so many restaurants really offering a very high complexity, elaborate vegan cuisine all around the country, in Europe and the world. It's a standard procedure, pairing wine with food. It's all. I think that question was not the most correct in terms of most wine is paired with meat, fish, and cheese. Wine, it's just the kind of that's what we're used to. But let's say red wine is usually paired with meat and cured old kind of aged cheeses. Even in vegan cuisine, you just take earthy dishes and you pair them with the red wine. I'm not an expert, I must admit. I'm not an expert. I'm only starting to learn about it. But I do know few restaurants in UK, especially the Acorn, a restaurant in Bath. They do an incredible job, and these guys are super amazing, and what they do is very, very class. So if you want to taste that, I suggest you go and experience it. There is a wine pairing not just for one dish, but you can order a taster menu and have it paired with wine and experience that to yourself.
Nice.
But even in your own kitchen endeavors, that's very much possible. I can't give you the advice in here. I'm sure Alexis has much more to offer, so I give a hand to him.
Well, I like to pair my wine with a park bench or a biffa bin, but Alexis, I'm sure you're pretty au fait with the upsell. I mean, you know, wine is an important part of running a restaurant, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This is where this is what keeps the restaurant alive, as far as in terms of income and profitability.
Sure.
So it's vital that we are on the top of it, and we, I mean, to be fair, we've got some wonderful sommelier who spend hours and hours tasting wine and trying the food and trying to match the two together. So depending on the seasons and what kind of flavors we are using and what kind of spices we are using, what kind of texture we are using, and the start of the meal, the middle of the meal, the end of the meal, it's all very different. But because we are still a French restaurant and I specialize in French gastronomy, even though it's plant-based, there is a protocol we follow in terms of wine, and usually you start with the driest white wine, and you finish with the more robust red wine. And so sometimes it's actually the wine that tell us what kind of dishes we put along the way in our menu, because when customers come to my restaurant and they are, say, not vegan, but they want to try it, there is one thing they want to recognize. And I'm not saying that because we are in Great Britain, people drink more. But
we do our best.
It's fine if the food is good-ish, but the wine, my friend, has to be delicious. and so this will be a really sad night if the food is delicious but the wine is crap. That will be a really sad night.
Yeah, I heard of those statements before.
So we usually start with with dry champagne that goes with like some not too powerful herbs or leaves or ingredients, and then we build onto that. So obviously, I was talking to you about the dishes with the bouillabaisse dishes, but this is so reminiscent to the real stuff. So of course we are going to serve a white wine, say from the south of France, which is a bit more robust. Still white wine, with some depths of flavors which are more like a fruity peach or something like that. And then we are going to go on to, if we serve truffles with the main course, and then we do like a pithivier, which is castrated flavors into a puff pastry. This is going to go with a beautiful, say, Saint-Emilion. So people are gonna say, oh yeah, of course, you're having this with the Saint-Emilion and this fish kind of dish with the white wine, and then the pudding, it's dark chocolate praline, and we are going to serve with a glass of Banyuls. So it's a red sweet wine from south of France. And this makes sense to our customers. And I think the key to food and wine matching, it has to make sense. We go light and we build up on that.
Yeah.
And it it's 50% of the job done when you have a perfect wine matching with your food. So it's super important for us.
I doubt I get past the champagne, but it sounds brilliant.
No, it is. Even the champagne is good.
Yeah. Josie says, when I visited Paris, I went to a patisserie called Patisserie Végétale, which is French for vegan, or one of the words for vegan. And I ate the most delicious macaroons. They were so light and airy. I pretty much went to this patisserie every morning to get these delicious bites of heaven. Anyway, my question is, I've tried to make these at home and the biscuits are not light and airy. They are stodgy and sticky. And your complaint is, I do love to bake, but I just can't get the hang of this recipe. Can I have some tips, please? Anton, let's start with you.
I want to give a shout out to a pastry chef that I admire a lot. She is not based in UK, but she teaches occasionally in UK, and she runs private classes in Czech Republic. Her name is Petra Stachlova. Shout out. I went to her cookery school and I saw how vital it is to have a very good equipment. And so in order for you to really achieve a consistency with the macaroons, and they're one of the finest pieces of patisserie out there, it's really essential that you have a very good oven, the one that is very consistent and has a good temperature distribution, and usually those cost a fortune. I don't mean to axe your idea about achieving it, but I also don't want to give you false perception that it's a very easy to achieve. So the equipment is number one. Another thing is so aquafaba is not the most stable emulsifying plant-based liquid that kind of can create the meringue consistency. But what offers a more stable consistency is the new potato protein.
Oh, right.
And yes, potato protein really offers a very solid profile to create the meringue.
There you go, Josie. About £800 worth of gear and a bag of potatoes. Very exciting what's happening with potatoes. There's potato milk on the way, isn't it? But Alexis, do you do les macarons?
Yes, we do.
Et ça se fait comment?
Yes, ça se fait comment? So we do macaron. We do towards the end of the meal, we serve that with the coffee, and we've got a very successful recipe that never fell, and it's very consistent, and so it's crunchy on the outside, fluffy in the inside. It lasts for a meal, so it doesn't become stodgy or anything like that. And the key to it's actually quite. I mean, I'm worried that we make it sound like mission to Mars, rather that. I mean, the potato protein, absolutely. There are plenty of recipes online you can find recipes for macaron with potato protein. Potato protein are easy to purchase as well. I mean, we buy them from Woods Food in London, and I think they've got a shop online, and you can buy. I mean, these bags of 1 or 2.5 kilos of potato proteins, but
it's fine.
You can find them easily. Obviously, almond powder, the sugar. We tend to do a syrup, a very dry syrup, in order to add to when we whisk the aquafaba. So rather than putting the sugar as a castor, we have already liquefied it.
Yeah,
it's petit. What do you call that in English? We do petit boulet, so I'm not really sure what it is. So once it reaches the point of petit boulet, which is you put your hands in the ice, and then after you put it in the boiling sugar and water.
What?
Yeah, I know. This is how pâtissier work.
Don't do that at home. I'm just saying, don't do that, Josie.
But that's so I'm not really sure. I think it's when it reaches 117 or 125 degrees.
Okay.
I'm not really sure. But this is when the consistency of the syrup is perfect. So it's petit boulet, and then this is what we add to our mix.
Right. While it's hot.
While it's hot. Yes.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And the key is when we have piped the macaroon on a tray with the paper, we let them dry out in our hot cupboards, and so it creates a little crust on the top of the macaron, and this crust is gonna create a protection to the inside of the macaron. So when it's gonna get slightly harder and quicker, and that's why the outside is crunchy and the inside is still a little bit soft.
Nice.
And then after we cool them down on the marble with a little bit of water in order for them to recollect a bit of humidity back in, so it's not totally dry.
Wow.
And that's how we do them. So I don't know, there is a lot of, because we do it every day, and it's usually the same person who do them, there is a lot of savoir-faire and tour de main. You know, now how. This repeating the same thing over. So that's you're never going to succeed making macaroon by doing one recipe a month, you know. That's
precisely.
There you go, Josie.
And then you'll know your oven. You'll know that maybe 3/4 way through the cooking, you're going to open the oven door just to let the humidity being released, because today there was a bit too humidity in your macaroon.
Wow.
And then you're going to not let them dry on this kind of surface, but on another kind of surface. You're going to remove them from the paper before they are totally cold, because if they are still warm, they get stick. And there is a lot of. But if you are obsessed with macaroon, and I know there are a lot of people who are obsessed with getting the best macaroon, you know. Yeah. This is how it's going to work.
Yeah, Josie, this is your life now. You need to give up your job and really commit to this if you really want a good macaron.
Invest all your savings in a proper oven that
and a
worth
marble
at
worktop
least
and a wooden worktop.
And then you're on the path of succeeding.
It's simple, really. All right, final question. Thank you both so much for all your time. I'm conflating two. James says, what are your favorite flavor combinations? And John and Wendy asked, what are your favorite ingredients to cook with? So I'm just going to kind of put all of those things into one question, really. Anton, let's start with you.
One is tomato and marjoram. It's just especially cooking tomatoes with marjoram. It's I don't know, you just have to experience to yourself and then you see what I mean. And another one is onion and star anise. Cooking onions with star anise, again, onions will never taste the same again, irrelevant of how good these onions were before or not. These are especially onion and star anise is this kind of ingredient combination that I use a lot. Not everywhere, obviously, but I use a lot, and it's crazy how much star anise I go through in my kitchen on a monthly basis. It's crazy.
Crazy, pure craziness. Alexis, what about you?
Yeah, I've got my really favorite combination of flavors. One is very simple, but I come from south of France, so it's very Mediterranean. But one is fennel and thyme. Fennel, cooked fennel and sprinkle with thyme and put it under the grill is the most magical combination flavor that can ever happen.
How do you cook fennel? Can I ask?
Fennel, you can just pan fry the fennels until it's very soft, and then have to sprinkle fresh thyme over it, and you put it under under your grill in the oven, and the flavor of the combination of fennel and thyme is just magical. You don't need anything else. The other one is apricot and rosemary. This I don't know why, but they are so far apart, but they come from, you get apricot from south of France,
sure.
and rosemary grow very widely there. But either a fresh apricot with rosemary sorbet, for example, or a cooked apricot with fresh rosemary, just thinly chopped.
Yeah.
It's just heaven. You just walk together hand in hand. You don't need anything else. And my favorite ingredient to cook is one particular ingredient. It's right now in season. Is the graffiti aubergine from Italy.
Oh yeah.
The graffiti aubergine is this very blue purple-ish round aubergine which has a very white flesh, and when it's pan fried, just pan fried with olive oil and a bit of salt. Doesn't need anything else. It's like, it's so sweet, and the flavor of the aubergine is so intense. There is a depth of flavor. You can have a a graffiti aubergine for lunch on its own, obviously it's mega good for you. Yeah. But it's even better for your taste buds. I mean, come on.
And it's so succulent
as well. This is the most amazing single ingredient that everybody should have. Roast. Graffiti aubergine is the king of the vegetables.
Fantastic.
Or the queen, I don't know. I think it's a she.
What I loved about both your answers was that they weren't the most wild, exotic things, but just the way you've decided to pair them and stuff is just fantastic. And I'm genuinely excited to try all of those. That's brilliant. Thank you so much. Before you go, where can we find you and your work? Alexis, let's start with you.
Oh, that's very easy. You can come and eat in my restaurant, which is called Gauthier Soho. It's obviously in Soho, and it's at 21 Romilly Street. If you are from London, you'll know it's just between Dean and Free Street. It's very near theaters, and you can also come to my other restaurant, which is a lot less gastronomic, but it's delicious. It's called 123V. It's a family restaurant in Mayfair, 63 New Bond Street, where you can have my dream vegan family food, and it goes from poke bowls to burgers and salad, and it's seasonal, but it's delicious.
Sounds fantastic. And Anton, what about you?
Well, I recently moved to south of France and to Toulouse, and I'm running a restaurant called Bloomy. So if you're ever in south of France, please come over. I'll be super happy to host you. And you can find me online. It's just Chef Anton Petrov on Instagram or chefantonpetrov.com on my website. And if you have any questions, if you want foraging walks or private dinners, I am your man. Even running a restaurant, I still love working personally with private clients, because that's one of the most satisfying things in the world.
Brilliant. Thank you both so much. That's it for France, for our world tour. Next time, we're off to Spain. But we're taking your questions on the following podcast, which is on Middle Eastern cooking. If you've got a question, it's podcast@veganlifemag.com. Don't forget, veganlifemag.com is where you can get a subscription to the magazine, or you can just go and buy it in a shop, or you can get the app. In the meantime, we're on Instagram now and everything, because that's how modern we are, despite still talking about old-fashioned tofu. It's veganlife_podcast. If you'd like to join us to continue the conversation there. In the meantime, though, from me, Jake Yapp, bye-bye.
This has been a Swanburst Media production.